Todd, something that I wanted to touch on, because earlier on I was talking to you. Todd has done some news clips, and he's been in radio as well. And I've shared this with some of my clients, that when you are presenting live, like we're talking now, if you are a professional, if you are a CEO, if you're an executive, and you have to give a presentation or a speech to an audience, you don't have the opportunity. It doesn't sound really good or look good if you're fumbling. For example, you're saying, "Hi, my name is Jim Jones, and I love so what we like." So I have a company that it really doesn't look good when you do that. So you have to be able to just flow off the top of your head with no script. Todd, I would love to hear you describe what goes on in your brain to allow you to deliver like a presentation or talk off of the top of your head without saying cut, take two.
Holy smoke. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I'm digging into your brain there, because to explain it is a whole different ballgame. I'd love to hear your explanation if you take a second and tell us that.
So fortunately, in my career as a voice actor, almost all of the jobs I've done, and this is literally tens of thousands of commercials, and video projects or animation, everything is done with a script. So I usually don't have to fumble for just coming off stuff with the top of my head. But earlier today, I showed a clip from a project that I did for a client of mine, where I was explaining about a part of his town that he lived in, which was it was an underserved part of his town, a town that people might call the wrong side of the tracks. And I came up with the idea of calling it the wrong side of the tracks because it was next to the tracks. And the people who lived on that side of the tracks were of very modest incomes, and may have been dealt a bad hand in life in general, and this was low-income housing and so on. So I managed to put all this together in my head, and I probably wrote it out beforehand, but just in like bullet points, just little points I wanted to make, not a script exactly, just little points, and then did my best to memorize those points that I wanted to say when once the camera was rolling.
Points in his head.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that my pointy little head.
No, that's a point. That's something that I talk about. Go ahead. Just
and
love it.
I think for someone who's making any kind of presentation, I think you definitely, if you haven't had a lot of experience doing this, you definitely don't want to go up there cold and think that you're just going to dazzle the room. It's going to be a long day if you try to do that. Yeah. What you may want to do is decide what the most important thing you want to say is first. What is message one, right? When I was working in radio, and I would have clients come in, and I would help them to write a script because they wanted to voice it, which was almost always a big mistake. But what I would say to them first is, what do we want to say today? What is the most important thing that you want people to remember? What is the most important thing that you want people to take away?
Yeah.
And they would say, well, we're having like a big sale for, St. Valentine's Day, or we're having, we want to get rid of all of our old stuff and we've got our new stuff coming in. Okay, this is what you want to hammer it, from the beginning of the message, and then there's like a little bit of other stuff, and then you hammer it again at the end, right? So I would say, what is message one? What is the most important thing they want to hear first? Let them hear that first, let them hear that again at the end, right? And that's the model for a radio commercial. For a presentation,
It's the same model.
yeah, it's similar,
Yeah.
right? Please don't go up there on stage and think that you're going to be Billy Crystal, or a professional comedian, who's been doing this for decades and knows how to dazzle an audience. Rehearse. Go through your bullet points, right? Go over what you want to say and make it convincing. Go over it again and again in days before you do it.
Practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Until...
And Todd, don't just stand up. You see, if you have a presentation, don't mumble it. Don't go, okay, I have to listen. No, let your ears hear what your mouth is saying. Say it loud, like if you're actually in front of the audience.
Right. Because the last thing you want to happen is some guy in the 8th row going, I can't hear you!
That's right.
It's like nothing takes the wind out of your sails like... they can't hear me. Okay, I think I'm just going to go home now,
Gonna fall straight in the floor. That's right. That's so right. That's so right.
So
practice.
Right.
Yeah.
Find your bullet points, practice, make sure they get message number one.
Yeah.
Right? Please don't try to be funny. Leave that to the professionals.
If you're natural funny, sure, let it flow.
Yeah.
But don't force yourself to tell a joke.
Yeah. And because more times than not, jokes don't go over well. In today's society, you're going to insult somebody, by accident.
Yeah.
If you're a professional comedian, that's fine. But if you're just someone who wants to come up and make a presentation that's engaging, that convinces people that you've got a message and it's worth listening to, you're already going to be way ahead of the game.
That's one. Todd, what would be like a hook, an opening line to grab an audience if it's not a joke? What are some of the things that have been like a nice opening statement? I think you are naturally humorous, so your opening line will be something funny. That would be a given, right? But could you think about anything else? And I'm deliberately putting you on the spot because everything you're saying resonates with the things I've been sharing all the time. So this is just totally exciting. I mean, we come from the same school, so it's like, yeah, this is what it is.
Yeah.
So like if you were to stand up first, like you're talking to, I don't know, a group of teachers in a school and you want to address them to encourage them to talk to their students differently, like what might be an opening line for them?
So,
Top of your head.
I think salespeople who write advertising copy and have never really done it before, or people who are just getting into radio who are trying to write advertising copy, they believe that, many erroneously believe that they should start with a question. And I don't think you should start with a question. For example, you may watch.
You don't think you should start with a question?
No.
Okay.
So start with a statement. For example, you may have heard like commercials that begin like this: "Does your back hurt?"
Correct. Yeah.
That's a great way for someone to turn the dial to another station. No, it doesn't.
Or Todd, I mean, I could debate and say it would be like, yes, it does. I'm listening. So it all depends. But yeah. So go ahead.
I would say stay away from questions to begin.
Right.
You want a hook. Engage the listener with just to get past your first, second, third, and fourth sentence. I would say if you're trying to engage the audience with something like something that's going to make your back hurt less.
Yeah.
Right? Don't start with, "Does your back hurt?" Right? "How many pills have you taken today?" Those are two questions, right?
Yeah.
Stop the questions.
Yeah.
And just start with a relatable like this. Rather than, "Does your back hurt?" How about, "I woke up this morning and my back hurt so bad I couldn't feel my feet. When my dog came running in the bedroom to get fed, he took one look at me and said, 'I'm not going to get fed today. That guy's back is out. He's going into the hospital.'" So anything, okay, maybe you're not going to the hospital, but now you've got the audience kind of involved in your life a little bit, rather than, "Does your back hurt?"
So I assume you'll be talking to I always think about who your audience is. So in that case, you may be talking to an audience, people you want to pitch for some pharmaceutical or some drug, and you're pitching. So that's your opening line for that kind of audience.
Yeah.
And so you have to think about. So that's like a statement. It would be you're probably leading up to some sort of fact. So that's something I'll say, like state a fact or state some sort of statistics. Like, did you know that 50% of people who take this medication have a result like this? Something like that is also good. That's excellent. But sometimes a question can be asked. So for example, if it is a financial thing, how many people would love to earn more money? I think that's a perfect question because there's a response that people have to say, yes, It's not like a question that people have to think about. I think in circumstances like that, depending on who you're pitching to, that could be asked. So it depends, but certainly like, does your back hurt is not something that would really engage your audience in a presentation. So, but that's really, really interesting.
But you're right, because you have to know who your audience is,
You have to know who your audience
is. That is a whole different
other thing. Yeah.
That's a whole different subject, right?
Yeah,
is
because
knowing your audience.
if you're talking to teenagers, then you may want to pivot it differently, ask a different question.